In the silence of the trophy room, where the echoes of past conquests resonate, we discover how to lead as men. It is not solely about the trophies we proudly display, but the courage to learn from defeats, humbly lead, and forge a legacy worth more than any physical accolade. Together, we'll discover how to lead from the trophy room.
Welcome back to Leading from the Trophy Room. I'm your host, Beau Mills. Today we have a awesome guest in Karston Morrell. This guy, I actually met him, I think for the first time, or at least I hung out with you for the first time on a West Texas quail hunt. We were on top of a high rise on the back of a truck going through some crazy scrub brush with thorns all over it, and we'd see quail and jump off and run after them and jumping over cactus and shooting quail, and man, we just had a blast. And that's where I really got to spend time with him. I've met him before here and there, but that's where we really got to spend time. And even on that day, we laughed, we got serious, and I've come to know, like, that's just who you are. Like, we can laugh together, we can cry together, we can get real about life and where we've been. We can get real about Jesus and where we are, and talk about marriage, talk about kids. And man, it's just been a pleasure of growing our relationship. And I am super thankful that you're joining us here on the podcast. So Karston, how we doing?
Yeah, man. What an intro, dude. Like, thanks, man. It's just, it's incredible to know you. That quail hunt you're talking about, dude, that was tons of fun. I just remember prior to that, really getting to kind of see your heart on stage and that kind of thing, and in passing in the hallways. But really, like, that was the first time I got to see kind of like, hey, this is who Beau is. And it really is, has been fun since then to kind of develop a friendship. Anyway, super happy to be here. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
So you're married. How long have you been married for?
So December will be 10 years.
10 years, and you got kids. How many and what are they?
Yep. Three boys, and they're wild. They're 9, 5, and 3. And not a dull moment at our house, man. And
you're in it just like I'm in it right now.
Yeah, we're in it, dude.
We're doing live.
We're in it.
It's so good. So Karston, I don't know everything about you. I know some things about you. And what I know about you is you've been in the oil industry, oil business.
Yep.
You're from West Texas.
Yeah, kind of. Growing up, I was like half my life there. Parents were divorced. Dad was down in Katy, outside of Houston. So I got to experience kind of the best of both worlds when it comes to West Texas, little town, and the big booming metropolis.
And you married a California girl, which obviously I'm from California. Those are the best people. So you picked a good one.
Yep. And she's way prettier than you.
And she decided to move out here.
Yeah. So she had family in Snyder. That's how we got connected. But
That's good. So tell me a little bit, like, what I want to get into. So this podcast is all about, as men, the trophies we chase in life.
Yeah.
And trying to redirect our hearts and mind to the proper trophies that we're after when it comes to rooted in Christ. Mm-hmm. And so I know just from a little bit what I've heard of you and teach about and just being around you, there's been some trophies in your life that you've chased. So let's talk about graduating college or leaving college or even high school and going into the oil industry, starting the oil industry and then starting a business or coming into that. Tell us a little bit about that story.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So tried to go to college for a little bit right after high school, and didn't work. I had just started living for me, man. I was just having a good time and couldn't make it to class. Lots of partying, lots of just distraction. And that was, at that point, was whenever I really...
That's so not normal for anybody listening. You probably have not dealt
probably
with
never
that.
experienced that in your life.
Yeah.
But that was really kind of the start of one of those trophies we're talking about, but we'll get into that in a minute. But so tried going to college for just a little bit, didn't work. And then I had a cousin that was running an oil field service company that does what our business today does back then. And he said, hey, man, like, I know you're up to probably nothing, and I think it'd be a great opportunity for you. I know you'll work. I know you'll hustle. Come over here and let's get after it. So Joss and I had been together for just a little bit. She decided she was going to move with me to San Angelo from Snyder, and went to work. Started working my way up there.
Doing what?
Yep. So working in oil and gas, we were a rig service provider. So we would go out and we were cleaning drilling rigs. We were shoveling oil-based mud out of pits, just nasty, dirty, hard. Like first day, I'm going, oh my gosh, what have I got myself into? This is should have stayed in college.
One thing I've learned about the oil industry in Texas is like everybody expects you to know what they're talking about. It's like
yeah, absolutely. You guys don't know.
Hey, what do you do? I'm in the oil industry. I'm like,
yeah.
okay. Like, what is that? I see these pumps going up and down.
Sure.
When I drive down the highways, that's all I know about the oil industry.
Sure.
They are, what is it? The Hillbillies. What's that show back in the day where they struck oil and became millionaires? That's the extent.
Yeah, Beverly Hillbillies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the extent of the oil industry that I know. Like, people become millionaires. They put this thing in the ground. If it strikes oil, they are bajillionaires and the oil industry is good. Is that all it is?
Yeah, so we're not on the bajillionaire side. We're not actually the ones that are producing the oil. We're like providing a support service for the guys that are punching the holes and
so you're scraping out mud.
Yeah.
Pits, is that what you call them?
Yep. So like on a drilling rig. So what you're talking about, like a pump jack, that's what's pumping oil out of the ground all the time after a well's been drilled. But to drill a well, they've got to bring out a drilling rig. And so on that drilling rig, they use different fluids and stuff to drill with. And oil-based mud is just about as nasty as it can get. And so on a drilling rig, they'll have these elongated metal pits with agitators and stuff in them. And that's where they blend everything. And so we would literally get down in there and we'd have pressure washers and shovels and just sucking this crap out of there.
So how old are you right now? In that time, in that story.
18.
18.
Yeah. Tried to go to college for a brief stint, and
that's
it was
not
like,
going to work.
No.
And so this is the next step.
Dead of winter. I'm 18 years old. This is what I'm doing, playing with water, mud. It was just.
And I'm guessing you took that step because you didn't know of anything else you could do.
Yeah, man. I had no other real opportunity. I had heard about the Beverly Hillbillies you're talking about, going, oh man, like I can go make $1. Like that sounds pretty cool. These guys have cool trucks. My buddy's got a new single wide trailer. Like surely I can figure this out.
Okay, so there's one idol,
absolutely,
or one trophy,
absolutely.
Like, hey, that guy has that thing, and I think if I do this and get that thing, I'll be a better man.
Absolutely.
I'll be more of a man. I will have some kind of success in my life.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So you start doing that. Where does that lead you in the oil industry?
Yep. So worked my tail off there, kind of worked my way up. And through that, like I got into like a regional manager type role and just had proximity to like a ton of self-employed, self-made guys who were really full of themselves. And it gave me proximity to a world that I'd never had access to before. And so that was...
What does that mean, full of themselves? I think I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
But let's explain this. Yeah. I might be listening to this and I might be full of myself. So what does that look like and why do you say it?
Yep. So as I got to engage with these guys that, man, they are on top of the world. Like they're making bukus of money. They're flying around in private airplanes.
That just seems like success.
Yep. So that's what I thought. Like, man, in the eyes of the world, like this is awesome. And so, yeah, these guys just have everything that sounds like success, you peek behind the curtain and it might not look like that. You go to their house or engage with their kids. That's not the story that you hear. But like, man, on the outside, like these guys had it going on. And so just the way that naturally developed in my career in oil and gas, I got proximity to that at a really young age. And so that became a trophy super quick.
Yeah, I know just in my personal life and being drafted out of college, I wasn't good at school either. I'm so thankful for the draft because if I didn't get drafted, I wouldn't have finished college. Yeah. I wasn't going to class. And I just, hey, if I make the major leagues, I'm successful. Hey, if I get X amount of dollars, I'll be happy. I'll be able to then buy the house that my wife wants. I'll have all the things that I think bring happiness because I've had no money. And that's really hard. Yeah. And so the stress of no money will lend me to think the lie of money will breed happiness. And so it sounds like you got to see at a young age, just like I got to see at a young age, that might not be true. There were some things they were doing that seemed fun. I want to own my own plane. That's cool. But it didn't breed the happiness that it looks like you thought it might. Is that truth?
Yeah, absolutely not.
So what happened? So like you see that, do you still go for it?
Yeah, sure.
What are you doing?
See that, have proximity to that, and I go, hey man, like doing this and working for other people, there's a cap on my potential to go and climb the next rung of the ladder in
Corporate world.
Yeah. In regards to, hey, getting closer to that airplane or those big bags of money or whatever. And so I said, hey, I'm going to go and we're going to do this for ourselves. We're going to go, like, this is the next step in me going to achieve that trophy that, like, I really thought that I wanted, that big bag of money, that airplane. That's an analogy, obviously. But, I mean, that'd have been cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that was just the natural kind of progression.
And so where's your walk with the Lord at this time?
Yep. So that was, it was non-existent. I think I'd like to think I had like fire insurance. Like I was saved when I was a kid, but I had no relationship with the Lord, right? Like I knew who Jesus was, but I just wasn't walking with him. Like it was, the idol of my life was that success, that approval of those guys that I had come to know in that industry. The big bag of money. Hey, honey, I can buy you the house you want. I can buy you the car you want. Like that was what was the Lord of my life.
So I think I was there, and I think a lot of the men and women that might listen to this sit in that relationship with the Lord of, hey, I accepted Jesus because I didn't want to go to hell.
Yeah.
Hey, I accepted Jesus because I heard that in salvation I can go to heaven. I might be happier. But they don't truly live it out or make them Lord of their life in all areas. And so I've been there. Like I was similar story, similar walk. So let's keep going in this story.
Yeah, man.
So you're there, you see this stuff. Do you continue in that business with that company? What do you do?
Yep. So start our business and we just start building it up, man. And
Wait, you start your business.
Yeah.
So
Did I fast forward?
Yep.
Oh,
that's great.
Sorry.
Though. So you break away from that business.
Yeah. It's the next rung.
To start your own. So the next rung is I'm going to start my own business in the oil industry.
Yep. Absolutely.
Doing the same thing.
Yep. Same kind of service, same kind of thing. Got to know, there was a guy who I had a previous relationship with, as far as like a business relationship that, was able to take a chance on me. He became my business partner and we just got to rocking and rolling, man.
Okay.
And it was everything that like I thought I wanted it to be. Like we started growing, we started doing all those things. We started back in 2017.
2017.
So, yep.
So 7 years ago.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Does it feel like 7 years?
Yes and no. So it feels like, God's done an incredible work in me in those 7 years. And so it's like, man, I look back and I'm like, gosh, I was just so off. Mm-hmm. And so that feels like a long time ago, but not a long time ago.
And where are you living at this time?
So we started our business and I'm living in Snyder.
Texas.
Yep.
Okay. West Texas.
Yep.
Close to Odessa.
Yep. So we were about 90 miles, 100 miles, northeast of Odessa.
Okay. And so a few years, business is going okay, successful, hurting.
Yep.
Great.
So business is going great.
Okay. Business going great.
Business going great.
You're married.
Yep. At that so Josh and I got married really early, so we kind of skated past that. We got married. We were 19. We had our first son, Keegan, and so not only is just this life and this chaos, like we've got our first son, and then our second son, Gunnar, was born like 2 years into having our business.
And so how's your marriage at this time?
Yep. So marriage sucked.
Oh, really?
Yeah, man, it's on the rocks. I had put so much stock and so much, I cared so much about our business and I cared so much about
being successful
and thinking that would give my wife what she needed. And that just wasn't the case. And so, yeah.
So how did we intertwine? Like, I know Stonewater,
yep,
the church that we're a part of, started a campus in Snyder.
Yep.
And I don't know the whole story, but I know you became a part of that church and serving out there in that church. So where did that all connect between 2020 And when did that start? 2022?
Yeah. 22, I believe.
So how did that connect? Tell us that process.
Yep. So, man, we knew some folks that were involved with the church, which I think before it was even like, hey, this is going to be a Stonewater campus. Just they were meeting in some homes, and there were some people that we knew through sports, through school with our kids, and we had it kind of piqued our interest. And we had been involved in a local church prior to that, but it was one of those things like I'd go when I felt like we really needed to, or I need to straighten up for a little bit or something like that, you know. And so, anyways, we get to this point of just where all these things that we're talking about had just come to a head. And we were just broken. And man, I really that was the first time in my life that I really surrendered to the Lord. Like
when you say broken, like what was going on?
Yep. So marriage is on the rocks.
You guys are wanting it to be done, or it's getting like it just feels like it's going that direction.
Yep. So it would be done if it wasn't for what the Lord did. Like we were at that point where my wife had enough, like through no fault of her own, like through the decisions I was making. And so, it just sucked.
It's awesome.
And and it brought me to a place of like real surrender because I just knew like, hey, like God is the only way that this is going to get right, like the course is going to be corrected. And I had a moment with him in my truck really early one morning, probably 2022. And that was just that point of real surrender, right? And
what does that look like? Like, so my place on this podcast is try to be a super real.
Yeah.
In my role as a pastor, I know we can say some churchy things.
Yeah, man.
And so real surrender, what does that look like?
Yeah.
Like you're in your truck, you're driving. Are you crying?
Yep. So it's like 4:00 in the morning. I was on my way to the gym.
Yep.
And
I figured you're either hunting, going to work, or going to the gym. There's another reason you're up at 4.
Yep. So going to the gym, and man, it had just like come to a head. Like Joss and I are going like, hey, I don't know if this is going to keep working. More so her. I'm like, what are you talking about? I got all this money. We're doing the thing. Like we've got the business.
How are you not happy?
Kids. Yeah. What's wrong with you? Like this is all the stuff that's supposed to make you happy. So she's going like, hey, it's not. And I'm going like, I don't know why. And just in the state of mind I was in. And so we had been like, this had come to a head.
You mean being a man?
Yeah. So it had just come to a head, and we were at this breaking point, and I knew that I couldn't fix it. I knew that like it was, hey, my family's probably my family's not going to be around anymore if there's not a drastic change in my behavior and who I am and how I operate within our family system. And so I'm in my truck, dude, and I'm crying, and I'm just like shouting to the Lord, and I'm just like, man, like I can't do it. Only like, if anybody can fix this, I know it's you. And I hadn't felt that real release of control and that real peace in my life prior to that. And so, that's what it looked like. It didn't look like an altar call and a super elegant thing. It was
in your truck, 4 a.m. in the dark
by myself.
So you do that. And then what takes place? Like, so that happens. Now, what do you do afterwards? So I think
this is right around I
think a lot of men have that moment in the truck.
Sure.
Whether it be at a church, in the house, in the truck, on the mountain, in the ranch, in the deer stand, but then they don't do anything after. Yeah. So it's like, I did this, and then God didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Like it's all his fault, and I just suck, and I'm still miserable.
Yeah.
So what'd you do after that?
Yep. So, man, I can't remember if this was like right after we got involved with the families we were talking about that were getting Stonewater and Snyder going, or if it was right before. I can't remember, but it was really close timing. I mean, within a matter of days probably. And so
that's weird.
Yeah, it's super awesome. And so, and I'd been friends with some of them from just a acquaintance type standpoint, but not in an intimate relationship in any kind of way. And so, man, we just got plugged in. And
to a local church.
And
that's meeting at a house.
At that point, I think
gym.
Yep. So we were meeting at the Boys and Girls Club.
Okay.
And so they were doing like a Wednesday night. There wasn't a Sunday thing, maybe once a month. And it was just a group of people that we were comfortable with because we had proximity to them. And at that point, I don't think we were very vocal about like the stuff we were going through. But man, they just like loved us. And through that, we had proximity to like God's people and God's spirit and God's word. And we were just starting to get, God was starting to refine stuff in me. God was starting to just, show me the steps that I needed to take to lead my family better. And it's not a light switch. And here we are, we're not.
It's a process.
Yeah, it's a process, but it's a marathon, man. But like those were the steps that we took. Cause I knew like, hey, I didn't know. God laid it on my heart. Like, hey, we need to go get plugged into this community, whatever that is. And like looking back, it's like, cause I couldn't have done it by myself. Like if I'd have just had that moment in the truck, went to the gym, worked out, went home and said, hey babe, like it's different. I promise. I wouldn't have been successful.
Yeah. What you relinquished to him was pride, control, the feeling of, hey, I am the king of my castle. Like I do the things. And you gave it to him. Like that's what you surrendered. But then there's stuff you did to prove it. Like you said, hey, I can't do it and I can't control it all. I'm going to go to a church. Okay, I'm going to step in with my family, lead my family to a church, a local church. I'm going to get plugged in with some people in part of that church. Hey, I'm going to maybe serve. I don't know if you started serving at that church.
Yeah, it was pretty quick.
Okay.
You talk about like, hey, you got the, all the stuff that the enemy throws at you. You got the wrong guy. I'm not cut out for this. What are you talking about? But man, it was just, it was what we needed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I want men to hear as you're listening to this. I think a lot of us feel like Karston at some point. Like we've all. Marriage falling apart. We're always struggling with anger and our kids or our wife or the people at work, our boss. And a lot of times it's that pride. It's that trophy of control. It's that trophy of being the king of your own castle, your own life. And a lot of us have hit rock bottom when it comes to those things, but then we don't do anything afterwards. We keep doing the same thing, expect different results. And so I want us to really hear that Karston said, hey, I surrender these things. And then I'm also going to step in obedience to what God has for me, not just keep doing him, because then he'll keep struggling with the same thing. It's a cycle that we see in life. And so love that.
Yeah.
Now you're here in Granbury, Texas, which is not Snyder, Texas.
Yeah.
So at some point, a part of serving at the church and meeting people and doing things, I know part of it had to do with your business, part of it had to do with relationship, whatever. You moved to Granbury and you say, gosh, I moved away from the church I love, the people I love, all these things. I need to get plugged in because luckily we're a church with multiple campuses. In different locations, but we're one church. And so you got to walk into the campus here at Granbury, Texas, get plugged in. And man, you're serving now on the central ministry team, which means you head up certain ministries across all campuses of Stonewater. And you led student camp. You helped lead student camp this last summer. And something happened at student camp, and God revealed some things in your life. And it was like the next week, you came into my office and you said something. And so kind of explain like what the Lord did in you. You still own your business. You're still a part of there. And you just felt something. Like, what was that?
Yeah.
Talk about that story.
Yeah, man. It's just so cool that we get to do this, right? And so we moved back in November of last year. So this, 10 months or something, come to Granbury, get connected some, serving in ministry to some capacity, helping with student stuff, still running our business, trying to manage the tension there, get to do student camp, man. And like prior to student camp, so at that point we'd been here since November to June. So that's 7-8 months, whatever that is, right? And through that, man, I just been really wrestling. Like, gosh, like I don't know if this was the right thing for my family. Like it's hard to come to a new place and get connected to people. We had really great community in Snyder. We had really great, it was awesome.
Yeah.
And so coming and leaving that and then coming to something new was hard. And it ended up being harder than I think we thought it would be. We thought that we maybe a little naive, thought, hey, it's going to be something that's super easy. And it's just, relationships and that kind of thing takes time. And so there was just a wrestle from the time we moved in November up till student camp in June. And man, just that week at student camp and getting to serve alongside like all these incredible leaders and just seeing all these people just pour themselves out for these students and just really be so selfless. Man, it was just so affirming. Like, I'm getting to experience this. I'm getting to see life change happen. I'm getting to see like salvations. Students are getting introduced to the Lord. Like, I mean, real freedom's happening. And like, God is just, I feel just whispering to me like, gosh, like you are where you're supposed to be, son. Like, it's okay. Like, yeah, it's going to be hard. Yeah, it's new. Yeah, that old thing was comfortable. But like, you're where you're supposed to be. And so like, God just really affirmed, yeah, like, hey, it's okay, and you're in the right place, and yeah. So I think we have this misconstrued idea that just because we're doing something that's for the Lord, or just because we're doing something that we enjoy, or just because we're serving Him, that it's gonna be really easy. And that's not always the case. But like, God is so faithful, and I mean easy from a standpoint of like it making sense in our brains.
Yeah.
And so I was wrestling, and I got to a place where He just really affirmed to me like, hey, no, this makes sense. This is what you're supposed to be doing. And so fast forward, I come into your office a few days later after camp wraps up, and I'm just like, Beau, like, man, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And it was just a really cool thing.
Yeah. You kind of, you said, man, it didn't happen. The Lord blessed it. But you're like, I don't know what to do about my business. I just want to do this full time. Like, I experienced so much joy.
Yeah.
And I think it's just, and I'm not talking to everybody listening that you need to go to organized ministry and do that full time.
No, absolutely not. Right.
But I think God's given you gifts and abilities that you didn't know could be used for the kingdom. And I think you realize the joy you have in living out this life to the fullest and what God's made you to be. And you knew these gifts you had, but you have been using them for yourself, for your gain, to make people laugh. You're a funny dude.
Yeah.
People love you. You're good with people, and you were doing that in life. And now you're doing it in the kingdom and for the kingdom and seeing real life change in others. And you get to see this real joy that God intended for you when He created you. And so I think a lot of men can relate to that, hey, you were created for a purpose, and we hear that, and it's in God's word, but we don't understand how that works out. We don't understand how that happens. And you can believe a lie about yourself that who I am can't be used for the greater good, and God wants to use it. And so I hope in hearing Karston's story, and so now he is here in organized ministry, doing amazing things, leading a lot of people, and he's just a joy to be around. He's a guy that just exudes a light and God's goodness, and it's just awesome. And he's a real man that was around real things. I mean, the oil industry is some real tough things, a lot of money, a lot of hurt and hardness and stuff out there. And here he is now using the same gifts he's using out there inside a church and making real change for the kingdom. And so, man, if you're listening, like, there's this idol of pride, of money, of being the king of your castle. And what you're hearing from Karston is the true joy in what happens when you surrender and step into the fullness and what God has for you. And so, hey, thanks for listening. Karston, thanks for sharing, dude.
Yeah, man.
You're awesome. You have an amazing story. And it's just a real testimony of what God can do with the gifts He's given you. Guys, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.